season, but it's Gregory who's out in front for Somerset at the moment on 37, which is a very impressive haul in inside 6 games. 85 for 2 as this is hit in the air by Lawrence and safe between mid wicket and mid on, and it bounces a couple of times before going up to the boundary away to our right, front of a Tom Pearce stand. And well, some real aggression, looking to knock Leach off his length here. 7 runs for Cook and now a 4 for Dan Lawrence.
Yes, it was a little bit risky, but he didn't quite get to the pitch of it, but he angled the shot nicely into a safe area. And well, as you say, Essex looked to be targeting Leach here, but Leach is a good enough bowler to get his revenge. 89 for 2, 174 ahead as Leach goes around the wicket and bowls, and pushed up into the offside. Quick single sharp for stumps to Mabel. That's tight. That was a good pick up and throw, but Cook was quick enough to get down to the other end. But that was a sharp single. But Martin needed a direct hit from Mabel, and in the end it was bails were whipped off, but Cook was fine. But that certainly kept him alert. That one, a punch of gloves at the end of a very profitable over for Essex, and 37 to Cook and 8 to Lawrence. It's 90 for 2. Leading by 175 now. Yeah, it was a risky single, that. Again, I don't think I've seen Cook move so fast in a long time. To be fair to him, he responded immediately to Dan Lawrence's call, and if he hadn't, he would have been out. Certainly it would have looked very foolish if he hadn't managed to get there. It was Lawrence who called him, and would have been responsible, but they pulled it off, and it's almost as if Essex have decided to, gather what runs they can.
Yep, it's Gregory up to the wicket and bowls outside the off stump, and Lawrence leaves alone. I was just saying to Stephen that this isn't a very promising position for Somerset. They're 175 behind. Essex have got 8 wickets in hand on a pitch which is offering plenty to the bowlers, but it was scarcely conceivable that Somerset could possibly beat Kent in the playing time they had available in the last game. And particularly if the weather were to intervene tomorrow, not expected to, but if it did, or if Essex batted for a while but lost wickets, as this is Lawrence pushing up into the offside and there's no run. Maybe a real clatter of wickets went down this evening and tomorrow morning, and it's still possible, but Essex certainly in much the happier position of the two sides at the moment.
Well, this is a long session in itself, this one. We've still got 28.4 overs to be bowled tonight, and if Somerset haven't bowled Essex out, you reckon they'd get the better part of another 100 runs in those 28.4, so they could well be getting on for 300 in front by the end of play if Somerset don't bowl Essex out. Yes, you're right, there could yet be a draw or a win for Somerset, but that's a long way off at the moment.
It's a long way off, isn't it, as Gregory bowls, and driven by Lawrence down the ground. Nice looking shot, goes away up to the long on boundary, just to the onside of straight for 4. He'll be really pleased with that, because it's beautifully timed, just slightly over pitch, lent into the drive, just went past the stumps on the onside, umpire having to get out of the way. Gregory couldn't stop it, and a long chase back to the boundary from mid-off. He was the fielder that got closest, wasn't successful as it hit the rope away at the far end of the ground. Nice stroke from Lawrence. He's gone to 12, 94 for 2.
Yeah, lovely straight drive, top quality shot. Maybe this pitch is just playing a little bit more in favour of the batsman than at any other point in the game.
Suggesting that to Stephen, then Wesley got out to an unplayable delivery as this is played back down the pitch to Lawrence, and there's no run. Sometimes you can make it look foolish when you suggest, and I did actually starting to talk about that on air, and then Wesley got a delivery which he just couldn't deal with. It just bounced up at him and it just went off the open, I think not quite off the open face, it might even back of the bat, but it looped into the gully. And just every now and again there is that delivery there, but the overall impression is that there's not a lot generally for the Somerset bowlers at the moment. 94 for 2.
Yeah, what would I think be in Essex's favour is that Porter and Harmer in particular have such an astonishing record on this ground.
Yes.
And they're just querying the ball here. Just like to take up a point you were quite rightly making earlier, Nick. Essex, if they win this game, would have won 4 out of 4 at home, but none out of 3 away.
Yes.
Now, what I would say, obviously you're quite right in this one, they're going to have to get results on the road to have any chance of catching Somerset. But in the previous 2 seasons, when they won the title in 2017, they won 10 matches, 5 home, 5 away. And last year, they won 7 matches, and at least 3 of those were away. I have a feeling it was even 4 and only 3 at home. So basically exactly the same side. No reason to think that as soon as they hit the road and get on the coach, it all falls apart. They had a shocking performance at the Ageas Bowl first up this season, a much better performance at the Oval in getting a draw in a high-scoring game. Didn't play very well up at Headingley, I'd be the first to underline, but they're up against a Nottinghamshire side next week. In fact, we go up there on Saturday to begin the match on Sunday as a new set of balls are brought out, and this will extend this long evening session already still further. Could go on till after 7 o'clock this evening, and quite frankly, in the form Nottinghamshire are in at the moment, unless they can totally turn it round, you'd have to say that Essex would be favourites. They won at Trent Bridge last season. And bearing in mind as well that Nottinghamshire are not only adrift at the bottom at the moment, this wouldn't apply to the Essex visit, but Dave Bracegirdle told me last year that Nottinghamshire had only won one championship match in the last 9 seasons in the month of September. So nothing to do with Essex, but that really, they've got to turn that round really to have any chance of being the one side that will be relegated this year from Division 1. But as I say, I think Essex have an excellent opportunity to put their first away win on the board after this game, whether they win here or not. The weather forecast I've seen suggests heavy rain overnight, but it should be clearing by tomorrow morning, and then the rest of Tuesday and Wednesday are set pretty fair. If the pitch does start playing a lot easier, obviously you'd expect Somerset to score a lot more in their second innings, especially as I've no doubt they're doughty fighters who won't give their wickets away easily. But you've always got the Harmer factor.
Yes.
And while I was walking around the ground 5 minutes ago, I bumped into Simon and I said, I can hardly believe you've gone a whole innings without taking a wicket.
We've just had that question from an emailer, when did it last happen?
And he's such a lovely guy, just beamed all over his face, and I said to him, I trust you'll put that right second innings, and he promised me he would. So
this tender Scarlet held sketches.
Yes, lovely bloke.
Here's Gregory coming in to bowl, and it's a nice stroke by Lawrence between cover and mid off for 4, and he suddenly found a bit of form here, Dan Lawrence. He's hit 2 really nice strokes, one down the ground and one through the covers. That'll do him a world of good. He's gone along to 16, double his score in quick order. 16 from 21, and it's 98 for 2, 183 ahead. And
the ball's coming onto the bat at a stage where in the first innings it wasn't. It was stopping on the batsman first innings, so it definitely has got a bit easier in kinder weather, let it be said as well. We've sort of got reluctant sunshine, I'd describe it, at the moment, but that's better than anything we had for all but the last 5 minutes last night.
Kim Summers says on the emails, we are enthusiastic about playing Warwickshire at New Road as opposed to Edgbaston. I think you might have said that on air, Paul, because it's addressed to you, that one. 98 for 2, and that's outside the off stump, left alone by Lawrence. But it's unfavourable to Essex followers in the vein that Worcestershire are one of the few counties not to employ a live stream facility. That might be the case, Kim, but the thing is, it is actually the first 2 days of that game are being played over a weekend, so it might be that some Essex supporters might prefer to go to New Road for a weekend than Edgbaston potentially, Paul.
No, absolutely so. I shan't be grumbling if it's actually played at Kidderminster, which is a lovely ground with excellent grub supplied by the local ladies of Kidderminster Cricket Club. Well, that was true when Essex were last there, around about 2002. Nasser Hussain played in the game there, I remember. Wonderful ground. So either way, without wishing to be rude to Edgbaston, the ground I've never taken to, delighted to go to New Road or Kidderminster, which is just about a 5-minute walk from the southern terminus of the Severn Valley Railway.
So it's going to be Leach. Going to have a bowl here now. He's going to bowl to Alistair Cook, who just plays it on the bounce down to short leg, and there is no run now. We've got Adrian Hammond saying thanks for the comments on the commentary, Adrian. Now Tom Wesley, you're talking about, really undoubtedly has talent, struggled for a couple of seasons now as Leach goes over the wicket and bowls, and Cook tries to work it off the back foot and just plays it down to the ground, and there's no run. Essex, while Essex are winning, as I mentioned on air, that doesn't matter so much, the top order, the bit of fragility is being masked, but maybe it's time for Wesley to move on and get a really solid number 3. And well, I'm not quite at that stage yet, Adrian, but I understand your point about him getting starts and not going on. That's played on the bounce down into the ground by Alistair Cook, and of course yes, it's perhaps been a feature for Tom the last couple of seasons. Well, it has, but if you, in fairness to Tom, if you look in the scores every day in the paper, you'll find he's one of loads who have got just the same problem. as Leach bowls, and Cook plays a nice stroke away for single down towards deep square leg. And well, he's on the way again, so Alistair Cook. Remember, he really did struggle at the start of the season, and there's almost a thought, had he made the right decision to, do a Graham Gooch, if you like, and to carry on, playing after his England career. But he's sort of got accustomed to it, and now he's very much like his old self. Maybe that stint in the old TMS commentary box has helped him along as well, giving him a little bit of a new lease of life.
Let me say as well on Tom's behalf that he's looked in cracking good form this season.
Looked good today.
He just kept getting out, but he got an unplayable one today, so I wouldn't hold that against him. And
no.
I don't think Essex, for all the fact they've got youngsters who've made a ton of runs in the second 11, but when they have been given their chance, it's become very apparent that it's nothing like as easy to make even reasonable runs in the first 11. And Tom will get you the certain number of runs in the course of a season, and he's over that bad patch he had last year after he was dropped from the England team.
Leach comes into bowl, and that's played away with the back foot, nicely away past mid-wicket, past Hildreth for 2, chasing it back to the deep mid-wicket boundary. There will only be 2 for Lawrence there, but he's playing nicely. The 100 up, and 101 for 2 in the 26th over. And Jacob Lee Hart has saved our new scorer at the back there. He's been doing a great job. Put this task to him on a part of his work experience.
Julius Jackson,
yes,
sitting behind us. Yeah.
Doesn't have to do it now because the problem's been solved for us. This is played away into the offside up towards Tom Abel. Another single there to Lawrence. The 2 number 28s in action. One with the bat, one with the ball. The end of Leach is over. Lawrence goes along to 19, 102 for 2. But Jacobs helped us out by saying the last time Essex took 10 wickets without Harmer taking any was against Surrey in September last year in the first innings. Now you might remember, that's a really good point. I should have remembered that because Surrey made a splendid total of, 67?
67,
and therefore
exactly.
You wouldn't expected Harmer to have been running through them. It was the seamers that did the job. Thank you very much indeed. But you did say Harmer then made up for it by getting 102 not out in the game when Essex of course batted long. But Jacob, not sure the last time it happened at Chelmsford. So there's still one on there for you, Julius, but yeah, it's probably a fair while. Probably the last game before we arrived at the club. 102 for 2. This is clipped away by Lawrence, who kept the strike to Gregory at the start of a new over, and it's going to be another 2 runs, and Lawrence starting to move a little bit more easily now. It's gone along to 21. It's 104 for 2.
Yeah, another Essex player I had the pleasure of bumping into. This was yesterday. It was the currently injured Sam Cook out with the side strain, and again, lovely smile on his face, and again, delightful chap, as is Simon Harmer. And for me, I like players who look as if they enjoy doing the job of being a professional cricketer, because you should do.
Well, they seem a happy camp at the moment.
Yeah.
Essex, 104 for 2. This is played off the back foot up towards mid-on. Remember, they've had one crisis point this season. I'm not just talking about the opening game when they only got 1 point, but let's be honest, there was a point during the 50-over campaign when things didn't look particularly good. But what they've done is got through that, put it down to not playing well and do better next season. But they've come back in the Championship since the 50-over break, really very impressively, particularly at Chelmsford, of course, where they've been playing most of the games.
They've dropped the one player who was in form in the 50 overs game.
Yes.
Generally actually come back in very good form.
Gregory Bowles, 104 for 2, and there Lawrence could be caught behind there, going for it. He's not walking. Now, as they are celebrating, but Lawrence now walks. Took a long time there as he felt he hadn't touched that. He was going onto the back foot. I think it's just come off the top of the bat, but he stood there for 5-6 seconds without walking. He's annoyed he's got out. Bit of extra bounce from Gregory. The catch behind, the fielders went up straight away. They gathered to celebrate. There was no indication from the umpire. Lawrence stood his ground, and then I don't think he was given out. I think he walked in the end, but it took a while before he did so. Maybe the disappointment, having just found some good form with those strokes we were talking about. But just as we were saying, that the batting looking easier, every now and again a ball will do something, and that one did get up a little bit, and Lawrence has favoured it through, and he's been caught behind. He's gone, having looked good for a while there on 21. 104 for 3. Cook is 38. The leader is 189.
Yes, he did wait a long time. You're quite right, as Bopara comes out to join Cook. A thought that occurs to me is that, in a sense, Essex can't lose in the situation, in that if they do lose wickets, well, it means there's still plenty in the pitch and they've got plenty of runs to back it up. If they don't lose wickets, then obviously they're getting a stronger and stronger overall position, but always the niggle, you know, is this pitch just getting very difficult to take wickets on. So they may not be all that disappointed. It was a good cameo from Dan Lawrence, but that is the problem with playing cameos. You're not really advancing your side's cause, and nobody will be more frustrated than he at getting out the way he has.
Yeah, we've had the email about Tom Wesley, and you could probably sort of put Dan Lawrence in the same bracket, in the sense he perhaps hadn't been delivering the sort of weight of runs that you would have hoped. But Gregory comes into bowl to Bopara, who plays up into the offside, and there's no run. So Bopara has been in pretty good order. Had a rare failure in the first innings, but played particularly well actually in both games against Hampshire, but important hand in a low scoring game last week from him.
Essex would appreciate him scoring runs here. In the first innings he only made 7 and played too soon at a pull shot and just lobbed it up tamely to mid-on, but he could have been out without scoring at all. The ball just didn't quite carry to third slip.
Here's Gregory, and bowls to Bopara. It's just outside the off stump. 2 more wickets for Somerset this evening, and I feel that it's just going to need a great innings from someone, backed up by others. The man I've identified that possibly could play it, because I do hugely rate him, is Tom Banton. You've just got the feeling there is a potentially big innings from him in the championship round the corner. And yeah, still looks a pretty good batting order at Tom Abel as a rally. James Hildreth, George Bartlett, all there of course as well. 104 for 3, and Bopara just gets turned around by that a little bit, but plays it up into the covers, and there's no run. The end of Gregory's over. 104 for 3, 38 to Cook, who is almost ever present in terms of the Essex batting in this match. Was he 9th, 8th or 9th out?
Who are you saying?
Cook in the first innings.
Alistair, right?
Yes.
I've got it down here somewhere.
It's quite a long way down the list,
it was somewhere in the 7, 8,
so
9.
He's been on the field most of the time, apart from the first over of the innings when we noticed he wasn't on. 38 to Cook, no score. Bopara, 104 for 3.
Yes, typical Alistair Cook, great occupation of the crease, and that without particularly looking at his best. But this is the difference between Cook and ordinary mortals. He may not look at his best while others do, but they get out, and he perhaps does eventually, but not for a long time. Jack Brooks is coming back into the attack, bowled 2 rather expensive overs at the head of the innings. Where I think Essex should be able to clinch victory here is that bowling attack they've got is so well worked out, in that Simon Harmer, I was saying in the win over Hampshire, for me is Essex's greatest ever signing. They've had wonderful batsmen, but batsmen, you can have the 6 best in the world, score 500 every time and not win any cricket matches. You need your bowlers, and Harmer can not only take a fistful of wickets, but he's so economical. Even in this game where he had half a dozen overs, he only went for 8 runs. Indeed, it's going to be Brooks, who's not had the best of games with the ball so far. Bowls outside the off stump and goes through to Davis. Yes, he's been a little bit below his normal high standard. He's played a big role though for Somerset, and was a key signing in just strengthening that seam bowling attack even further. Bit of a surprise when we heard he'd moved from Yorkshire to Somerset, but he's certainly done well. 2 slips and a gully, but not so well in this game so far. Can he change that? He bowls to Cook, who plays it away off the back foot, away for a single, so a shorter boundary in front of the pavilion, and goes along to 39. 105 for 3, will lead now to 190. Yes, Brooks has been switched to the river end, where most, if not all, of his previous bowling has been from the Hayes Close end. It may just enable him to keep a better line and length. He's undoubtedly a fine bowler, but he has been a bit wayward in this game, and certainly the most expensive of the Somerset bowlers and the least successful in terms of wickets. So this will be a one up to Tom Abel if switching him to the river end pays dividends. Brooks up to the wicket, bowls, and that's a little bit of bounce there, and Bopara just pushing forward. The ball's hitting him in the midriff, but you feel Somerset need to make further inroads this evening to try and keep whatever total they've got to chase. Well, I think they're going to try and keep it this side of 300, and the lead at the moment is 190, so they've got to get some more wickets this evening. 2 slips in the gully, point cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and fine leg, and on the drive it goes past mid-on and goes away for 4. Bopara gets into gear, he completes the single, which he didn't need to,
because he's gone for 4. Even puts his bat in it with non-strikers in. But that was 4 more or less from the moment it left the bat, and certainly wants to have beaten Leach at mid-on. And we're seeing some fine boundaries here from Essex, suggesting that there is room for stroke play.
Yeah,
but, 1 or 2 are getting out quite soon after playing their first few shots.
A little bit uppish, but to ground long before anyone could get anywhere near it. Fine on drive.
Bopara facing up to Brooks and just playing back down the pitch, and there's no one. Stephen coming in at the end of his over. Just a couple of updates. Surrey 103 for 1 have had a very good day, 67 ahead, and Mark Stoneman, who I don't think has been in the runs very much recently, is 52 not out. Bit of a forgotten man, Mark Stoneman, really. I suppose still someone who could come into the England equation, but not on the back of his recent form. He just pushes forward and plays defensively into the onside. Bopara did get 61 against Yorkshire at Guildford, but scores at Guildford often you have to weight them really in terms of how significant they are, because it's a batting friendly wicket. But before that, a horror run really from Mark Stoneman, so he'll be pleased about that. And as we sort of suggested, Afghanistan conceded too many runs against Bangladesh, and they're going to stay on no points. 160 for 6, needing 103 in 11 overs with 4 wickets left. Bangladesh heading for 7 points and still very much in contention. Stephen coming back in to join Paul Newton.
Thanks, Nick Gledhill. Yes, Bangladesh effectively a threat to England if they don't have, I would say, 2 wins in the difficult 3 games they've got left: Australia, New Zealand and India. And Gregory is in to begin a new over. Round the wicket initially to Cook. Superb delivery, goes right through Cook's defences. Play and a miss at that. 109 for 3, Cook on 39. He's made 119 in the game, in the match. 4 to Ravi Bopara, who's just underway. And Essex currently 109 for 3 plus 85 or 194 in front. And you would think in a very good position. I was talking about Simon Harmer as being Essex's greatest ever signing, not the least of his merits. He can bowl so many overs economically that the 3 pace bowlers get a good chance for a rest, working at the opposite end to Harmer. This ball goes through outside the off stump, there's no run there. And if you've got the bowlers who are good enough, the combination of a quick bowler at one end and a spinner at the other is also a great asset, because the batsman is always having to readjust to a different pace. Stephen, welcome back.
Yeah, dream signing, Paul. I quite agree with you. Simon Harmer.
Yes, I think if he ever came up for auction, all 18 counties given the chance would.
Yes.
He's such a nice fellow as well, and of course no mug with a bat, brilliant fielder in the gully or second slip. Here's Gregory and bolster Cook, another good delivery. They're going to get a single, but wasn't what Cook intended. Thick inside edge. Really is a fine cricketer, Lewis Gregory, with both bat and ball. Grenevald Fields moving up from long leg, and Essex moved to 110 for 3 and lead by 195. Cook has 40.
Yes, I remember that being the case actually with Craig Spearman when he was batting so well for Gloucestershire. Pretty well every county in the land was interested in signing him, but Gloucestershire managed to hold on to him.
Yes, to be fair to a lot of these overseas players, and it was always the way going back into the 70s and 80s, once they've signed for a county, most of them do remain loyal to that county. As here is over the wicket now, Gregory to Bopara, the right-hander, plays it to mid-off, and typical Bopara style, he shapes to take a single that would have been suicidal, as the ball went quite firmly up to Azhar Ali at mid-off, but Cook wasn't buying any of it. He knows every nook and cranny of Bopara's running by this stage, and stays firmly put at the non-striker's end. 110 for 3.
Yeah, Cook has really been the difference between the 2 sides.
He has, absolutely right. And as I say, I don't think he's been at his best, but he's stuck in there, and this is his great quality. As Gregory's in, bowls to Bopara. Bopara plays the ball a few yards into the offside, and the score remaining at 110 for 3. And of course, the key to Cook is patience and concentration. You don't often see him get out to anything reckless. You really have to earn his wicket, whereas a huge proportion of batsmen in the county championship can't resist after 20 minutes or so, if they haven't sort of hit a boundary, having a go at something, and that's where their judgment can let them down. Here is Gregory again, Hayes close end. No, in fact Bopara just at the last minute spotted something he didn't like behind the bowler's arm. Can't see anybody there, but he Gregory moves back. Actually, the sight screen at the bowler's end is a canvas one. At the Haste Close end, I should have said, is a canvas one, because there is a row of seating there, but the pitch is over towards the pavilion side, and therefore that row of seats is out of use here in this game, and Bopara just drops a dead bat on the eventual delivery from Gregory that ends the 29th over of Essex's second innings, leading by 85 on the first. They have lost Nick Brown, caught Gregory, bowled Tim Grenevald for 29. Tom Wesley caught Leach, bowled Jamie Overton for 12. And Dan Lawrence caught Davis, bowled Gregory for 21. Wickets at 43, 72 and 104. And Essex for 110 for 3, leading by 195.
Good to see Jamie Overton back on. He went off for a while after his spell of bowling, and always a little bit anxious when
yes,
a fast bowler goes off.
Here's Cook back cutting, and this will just produce a single. Man out on the boundary there is Tom Banton, and the score goes up to Nelson for 3. Nelson of the prime variety, 111 for 3, and 41 now to Sir Alistair.
I think we've got a full complement out there at the moment for Somerset. We had Ollie Sale on as substitute for Overton, and then Dom Bess came on briefly. I'm not sure, I don't think he's on at the moment.
Brooks, River End to Bopara, an exaggerated leave, thanks to Mark Eade, who emailed us at essex.cricket at bbc.co.uk, and I think you had problem at one point. You lost the live stream, but come back saying thanks, always enjoy the commentary. Looks like you're all hooked on again. Thank you, Mark. Brooks, just an old John Player League style runner, comes in past Graham Lloyd, bowls Bopara defensively into the mid-wicket region. There will be no run, and as you were, Essex remain 111 for 3.
Yes, I had another wander around the ground. It was really quite sunny.
Yes, it was nicer. It's gone a little bit duller again now.
Yeah.
And Brooks is on his way again to Bopara. Oh, and Bopara flirts with this outside off stump, and fortunate not to get the edge. Score remaining 111 for 3. Just want to pass on a message from the Essex Director of Cricket, Dan Feast. Wonderful chap who's responsible not so much for the Essex County game, but for cricket of all ages right through the county. He was telling me when he was a guest at the Cricket Society that overall there's an outreach of 30,000 people who've played cricket in Essex, and this ball's going down and going for, I think, 4 byes here. No, it's 4 leg byes. Just flicked the pad. My apologies to Stephen Davis. 115 for 3. And that was down leg side, just evaded Davis's dive. Coming back to what Dan Feast was saying, he's telling me that there's an outreach of 30,000 people who've played cricket of one form or another in the county. In the last year, there's even been a team from the Vatican who've played a team from Essex. As here is Brooks in and bowls, and this ball is played down to deep mid-off, and even little leagues springing up in supermarket car parks have their little cricket matches, and all these are welcomed, of course, by the club. They love to hear of people playing the game. Now, today, a team from Aaron Beard, who took 4 for 23, a career best, from his old primary school, came here on this very day, and the man who used to take Aaron Beard for cricket was here to see it. They must be very proud people indeed. Tomorrow, there's a whole host of primary school children who are being welcomed to the ground, including Great Tottenham Primary School, whom Alistair Cook used to go to and play for as a schoolboy. So that'll be a nice occasion, as here is the first delivery of a Lewis Gregory over, goes through outside off stump.
Yeah, indeed. So that should be lovely. We had over 1,000 school children in Taunton recently during the game against Warwickshire, and that certainly boosted the noise levels.
Yes, indeed. And it is so important, you know. There's a lot of scaremongering talk about cricket fighting for its life. I don't personally go along with that, as here is Gregory in and bowls to Cook, or leave outside off stump. But it does need to, obviously, to reach out, particularly I think to the younger generation, make it appealing to them, and welcome them into the grounds. Preferably don't charge them at all, you know, do everything you can to encourage them, give them an opportunity to meet the players if possible. And Somerset and Essex, I'm sure, are among are at the forefront of those attempts. Gregory again, coming round the wicket to Cook. 2 slips a wide gully. Cook comes down a bit late on this one, on off stump. And the ever enthusiastic Tom Abel sets such a great example in the field to his team, does the fielding. 115 for 3 constitutes a lead of exactly 200 for Essex.
Yes, they're very firmly in control of this match.
I certainly think that with a huge amount of time left in the game, even with the interruption we had earlier today, of course there's always half an hour could be made up both tonight and tomorrow night. A patient approach is the right one for Essex, as Gregory's in bowls to Cook, and Cook turns this one through mid-wicket. 1 runner certainty, probably only going to take the one. No, they're coming back for 2, and that's a nice throw from Brooks, but they get the second run. 117 for 3, and Cook up to 43.
Yeah, nicely played by Alistair Cook, who's been on the field for virtually the whole game.
Just as Nick was saying, absolutely right. And he's not unused to that phenomenon. You think of his last test match, you know, he was on for most of the game then. As here is the next delivery, and again Cook has found a obliging gap in the onside. He's hit this too well to be a second run, as Tom Banton closes on the ball on the mid-wicket boundary, sends in a decent return. 118 for 3, and Cook goes up to 44, and Bopara will come into strike. And Bopara is a great one for needing to adjust his cricket gear at the middle, and not for the first time. He's only got 4 not out, the 1 scoring shot, but this is at least his second venture into attempting to have the pads properly strapped up.
He's got the pads back on now, or properly strapped, and gloves going back on. He's going to be facing Lewis Gregory.
Comes in from the pace close end. Bowls, Bopara in the air, but off drive. He went to ground a long way before reaching mid-off. On another hand, if he'd hit that straight, it would have been a caught and bowled chance, but was sufficiently wide of Gregory for it to be academic. He's made an uncertain start, I think it's fair to say. 118 for 3, the overall lead is 203, and that's the end of the over.
Yeah, Lewis Gregory has 1 for 30 from his 10 overs. It's been very steady as ever. Jack Brooks 0 for 23 from 4, more economical, coming back for his second spell. Just 6 overs from the 2 overs. I beg your pardon, just 6 runs from the 2 overs he's bowled in that. Much better than the first 2, when Nick Brown took rather a liking to him.
To say the least, yes, as here is the man now. Brooks in, bowls to Cook, a leave outside off stump, and score remaining at 118 for 3.
Still 2 slips in for Alistair Cook and a gully. 2 of the wickets, 2 of the 3 wickets that have fallen have been to catches in the gully. One by Lewis Gregory, who's there at the moment.
Brooks bowls. Ooh, that takes Cook on the pad, but it pitched outside leg stump, and any appeal was not from the bowler.
Jamie Overton had some words of praise for Alistair Cook yesterday evening when we were doing an interview, saying that Cook is seen on the county circuit much as Marcus Trescothick used to be seen, as being the wicket prized above all others.
And Brooks is in and bowls to him. Cook plays it late, as he likes to do, steers it out to Abel in the covers. No run, 118 for 3, and we still have 21.3 overs left of the day's play.
Yep, it's going to be quite a late finish this
Very
evening.
much so, yeah. Less bad light intervenes.
Yeah, it has got a little bit gloomier. We've had the floodlights on for most of the day, so they will come into effect increasingly, one feels.
Brooks bowls to Cook. Cook clips off the pads, single down to long leg, 119 for 3, and Cook up to 45.
There's one stage this afternoon when we really didn't need them on, the floodlights, because it was sunny. But gloomier again now. Wispy grey cloud above us and no sign of any blue. There's a bit of rain forecast for overnight as well.
There is, yes. Could be heavy, but doubt whether it will be too difficult to get play going again reasonably promptly in the morning. Probably will be a little bit of work to do for the ground staff. And here is Bopara getting 4 runs down to fine leg. Brooks just strayed on to leg stump there, and all Bopara had to do was get something on it to pick up his second boundary. He's made 8, and Essex moved to 123 for 3, and Brooks has just had this problem at Chelmsford in this match, that he's been unable to maintain a consistency of line and length.
Yes, played an influential part in Somerset's successes this season.
Bowls again. Bopara leaves outside off stump. End of the over, and Essex currently 208 runs to the good.
Yes, he's just a little bit out of sorts, Jack Brooks. He gets a pat on the back from his captain. There's going to be another change. I'm not sure. He's bowled 3 overs in this spell. It just happens sometimes, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. No, and he might just as easily go back to Taunton and have a field day again. You know, it's not that he's been having a poor season at all, but in this game he's been not only the most expensive bowler by some way of the Somerset bowlers, but also a man still looking for his first wicket.
We're going to have a change at the Hayes close end now. I think this is the first time in the match that Tim Grunewald has bowled from there. I think thus far he's bowled all his overs from the river end.
I think you're right. And
coming on in place of Lewis Gregory.
He will bowl initially to Alistair Cook on 45, 125 his contribution to the game, and as we've all been saying, he has been the difference between the two sides, because nobody else on either side has scored more than 36. Tom Abel's 36 is the second highest score in the game, and that is less than half of Cook's first innings score, and Cook is already above that in his second innings, and it just shows the quality of the man as he gets another single here, playing it off the hip. In fact, they might even think of coming back for 2, but yes they do, as the ball is eventually retrieved by Jack Leach, but he's a long amount of ground, the big amount of ground to make up from long leg towards deep backward square leg. 125 for 3, Cook to 47.
Yeah, ran the first very quickly, Alistair Cook. Yes, a match aggregate of 127 for him so far.
When you average,
counting.
Yes, when you average 50, which he does pretty much in his career, here comes Grunewald to bowl to him. Plays it to mid-wicket. One of the things I like about the few players who are good enough to average 50, if you look at Graham Gooch for example, let's say that such a player gets a duck, you can safely say over a period of time that he's due 100 in the next innings, and that, you know, there aren't many players who come anyways close to that. So, and there are good players who don't come particularly close to that, but Cook and Gooch and lots of people like Marcus Trescothick are outstanding. As here is the next delivery. What's a good delivery, and sees the end of Cook. Very well taken low down by Jamie Overton at second slip. It turned Cook round that, moved late, and Cook doesn't need to wait for the umpire's signal. He takes himself off. 47 he's made in the second innings, and so the first time we've seen Grunewald bowling from the Hayes close end has paid an immediate dividend.
Inspired captaincy.
Indeed.
So Alistair Cook dismissed for the second time in the match. I was talking about that aggregate individual score of 127. That's where it comes to an end. Warm applause for Sir Alistair as he walks off, and that was a nicely taken catch by Jamie Overton at second slip, although he may have hurt a finger while taking it. He's wringing his left hand at the moment. It was just about to go to earth.
It was. No, it was nicely taken, as you say, and let's hope he's all right, none the worse for taking that catch. And Tim Grunewald is clearly the man that Somerset have identified as the man who'll get rid of Alistair Cook, because he's got him in both innings. It was the only wicket he got in the first innings, and he's got him for the second time in the match, and that's no mean achievement, as the Essex skipper Ryan Tender-Scarter makes his way to the middle. Just like to answer George Farrow, sent an email approaching tea. Haven't had the chance to talk directly to George, who was saying that the Essex address at essex.cricket@bbc.co.uk is over long and complicated. You may well have a point there, George, but thankfully most of our emailers, in fact all of them clearly who do come through, have mastered it. But take your point. You say on another matter, in this current cracking match, you were talking about the pecking order of bowlers in county sides. Contrast this with the use of the new fast bowler in England's setup. Yes, Jofra Archer coming straight in and given choice of ends and the new ball. You say, P.S. I'll be coming down from Scotland for the next game at Chelmsford, the Yorkshire game. I hope Essex can keep it together for that game. I'm making the reverse trip in a little over a month. George, you're going up to Scotland for two of my favourite hobbies, as here is Grunewald in and bowls to Tender-Scarter. Doesn't time it. It was meat and drink normally to Tender-Scarter, but he isn't in the best of form. I refer to the back cut, and in fact he played it a fraction too soon, and it went in front of square to Tom Abel. But yes, the two hobbies I refer to are racing. I shall be going to meetings at Uttoxeter, Ayr, Perth twice, and Carlisle on my way back, and going up for the railways as well. As here is Grunewald in, bowls, lead from Tender-Scarter, 125 for 4, leading by 210. Yes, Tornado, one of them, when I say railways, steam railways, Tornado steam engine is pulling the Aberdonian going up from Edinburgh to Aberdeen. I shall catch it in the Perth area. Nip across to Fort William for the Jacobite, which goes up from Fort William to Mallaig in the West Highlands. As here is Grunewald again in bowls, and that's a leave outside off stump by Tender-Scarter. End of a successful over. Well bowled Tim Grunewald. 125 for 4 with Bopara, 8 Tender-Scarter yet to get off the mark. And then I shall call in at the Speyside Railway on my way back, which runs from Aviemore to a place called Broomhill. I think a lovely blue Caledonian engine, over 100 years old on that, and rounded off with a narrow gauge visit to the Ravenglass and Eskdale railway. So a 10-day holiday I'm looking forward to.
Sounds fantastic.
Yep. The Carlisle meeting I'm going to, going back to horse racing, is the only meeting in the calendar that's exclusively for lady riders, and always had a bit of an ambition to go and have a peep at that, so that'll be on my way home. And then day after coming back, Chelmsford and Essex v Somerset in the T20, as this ball is driven down the ground and nicely fielded at mid-on by Azhar Ali. 125 for 4 remains the score, so hopefully I've made it back safely and can come to the Somerset game here. And then 2 days after that I'm in Cardiff for Glamorgan v Essex in the T20. A busy little period.
I managed to get to Temple Meads in Bristol to see the Flying Scotsman go through.
Yes,
fun.
Here's the next ball outside off stump. It's a lovely station actually, Bristol Temple Meads.
It is, with a very high roof.
Yes,
substantial.
Now it's one of those, if you can manage to get a picture with the facade in the background and a steam train pulling out, it makes a great photograph. And Jack Brooks is in, River End, bowls nicely driven here by Bopara, but straight to mid-off, and once again there will be no run. Jack Leach fields.
Yes, Brooks is into the 4th over of his second spell of the innings. The sun is shining as well.
Brooks is in and bowls to Bopara, 2 slips and a gully, driven back without timing. Bowler doesn't actually field it cleanly, but it's not a matter of either of Azhar Ali from mid-on or Leach from mid-off could have cut that off. 125 for 4 as we approach 5 o'clock.
Yes, if you switch the floodlights off at the moment, it really wouldn't make any difference, would it?
No, they're not needed at this precise moment, but I think they've been left on because the light could start to fade again. Brooks is in, bowls, full toss, and again driven without timing by Bopara. Leach fields. I think Bopara will feel, not that I think it's fair to say that a full toss automatically ought to go to the boundary. I can tell you plenty of wickets have fallen from full tosses. You can get carried away, but I think he will feel that he missed the boat a little bit on that occasion. His 8 runs have come in 2 boundaries. That's short and 4 byes, and that was
wides.
4 wides, in fact. Yes, it would have been byes if there hadn't been wides, but it went a mile down leg side and slipped out of Brooks's hand, and poor chap just hasn't had a happy match here, and that takes it to 129 for 4.
Same thing happened to Tim Grenville, didn't it, before
yep.
tea?
No, that's right. Correct myself, 130 for 4, because of course with them being wides, you get a run for it being a wide and 4 runs if it's crossed the boundary.
Yeah, the lead now is 215 for Essex.
Brooks again. Bowls to Bopara. Leap outside off stump. The end of the over, it's 130 for 4. Lead, as you say, of 215. There are still 19 overs remaining to be bowled tonight. I'll take one more over and we'll bring Nick Glenhill back to the microphone.
Yes, the wide accepted. That was a pretty tight over from Jack Brooks. Apart from those boundary wides when the ball must have slipped out of his control.
Yes, Bopara looks a little bit struggling for timing out there, and maybe part of the explanation is that in this game, watching the way Nick Brown has hit boundaries against the new ball, you'd say the ball very definitely coming onto the bat, but then later batsmen, the middle order onwards, have tended to find the timing much harder as the ball goes softer. Grenville then from the Hayes close end, having just dismissed Alistair Cook. He's very close to getting the Essex captain out, as that one had extra bounce. Not always a quality that we expect at Chelmsford, but that bounced and went through to Stephen Davis, went over the top of Tenduscarter's proffered bat. 130 for 4, still to get off the mark, Tenduscarter.
Goes down the wicket to prod what he sees as an offending spot.
And settles over his bat again. 2 slips a wide gully. Grenville bowls to him. Went to drive at this ball, realised it was moving further away from him, and rightly pulled the bat out of harm's way. And score remaining at 130 for 4. The 4 men out. 2 wickets each. 2 wickets for Grenville, 1 for Overton, 1 for Gregory. Brown made 29, Wesley 12, Lawrence 21, and Cook 47. Here comes Grenville again, passing umpire Nick Cook now at the Hayes close end. Bowls, and again Tenduscarter gets well forward and leaves, and I just wonder, watching how he dealt with that ball, Stephen, whether he read Ivo Tennant's write-up of the game in the Times overnight, in which he pointed out that Tenduscarter had been out LBW, as he was in the first innings here, 7 times this season. I remember, I think it was last year, the first 6 times he was out, they were all LBW. It is a problem of which Ryan is aware, as Grenville bowls to him, and he's played this ball down, may not quite have the legs to go to the 3rd man boundary. They'll get at least 2, and they're going to settle for 2 runs there. The ball disappears from our view when masked by the Tom Pearce boundary, but successfully retrieved, successfully from the point of view of saving 2 runs. That was Tom Banton doing the good work there, the hard yards, as Stuart Law used to refer to anyone chasing after a ball like that. 132 for 4.
Yeah, he did well, because that was going rapidly over the outfield.
And Grenville to bowl again. Comes into Tenduscarter. That ball goes through outside off stump, no need for a shot, and you greeted me this morning enthusing over spotting a swan with some cygnets in the River Cann behind us, and I actually spotted them during the tea interval. A very appealing sight they make as well.
Yes, growing family of cygnets. They're quite a substantial size already, aren't they?
They are, indeed, yes. Here is Grenville again. Tenduscarter, oh my goodness me, has a real waft at this, and it was too wide really to go after, and would have been much better advised to leave it alone. The over ends 132 for 4, 8 to Bopara, 2 to Tenduscarter, 2 relatively fresh men at the crease, and Essex lead by 217. Commentary will be taken up by Stephen Lamb, and he'll be joined by Nick Gled.
Many thanks, Paul. Yeah, they look awful if you nick them when you have a flash outside the off stump, as that undoubtedly was, but managed to avoid the ball altogether. Tendescata, who was off the mark in that over, he's on 2. Papara's on 8. 132 for 4. Essex. So the overall lead is 217. Effectively 217 for 4. And very much in control of proceedings here at the moment.
More than I can say for myself.
Jack Leach is going to continue, or come back rather, I should say, in place of Jack Brooks. Brooks 6 overs 0 for 33 at this stage, and Leach will be bowling to Ravi Bapara. Going to start off round the wicket. Just rubs the left hand in the earth on the popping crease to assist his grip on the ball, and now he heads in to bowl to Bapara, who just caresses this rather on the leg side, out to square leg, where James Hildreth has a little bit of a chase to pull it in. They take a single. Bapara goes to 9. 133 for 4. We've lost the sun again. Got a bit gloomier in consequence as Leach is in again, and that's defended. Hildreth in again from mid-wicket to field.
Yeah, I think Essex in a position now where they just, having lost Cook, we don't want to lose a couple more this evening. Might be a more conservative approach.
Leach in again, and that's defended by Tendescata.
Partnership record time. Durham's 6th wicket against Sussex. It's been beaten today.
This from Leach is pretty much a full pitch, which Tendescata can't really get hold of. Looks a bit frustrated at that.
Playing well within himself at the moment, the Essex captain.
Leach in again, and Tendescata's forward. There's an appeal, in fact, or half an appeal from Jack Leach. Just wondering whether he might have hit the pad first. Nick Cook isn't interested. Just a slip in to attack the batsman as Leach bowls. Once again, Tendescata is forward, and that's the end of the over. 133 for 4. Yeah,
that partnership record, and it's been a miserable season for Durham, so let's just credit something good that's happened for them, because Cameron Bancroft 105 not out, Ned Eckersley 61 not out, have so far put on 145 unbroken for the 6th wicket against Sussex, who were starting the day 20 points ahead of adrift of leaders Lancashire. So Durham, having been 90 for 5, are now 235 for 5 at Hove on the opening day of that Division 2 game. And I say good bits of news, a bit few and far between for Durham, so I thought it was worth an early mention.
Tim Grunewald is going to continue from the Hayes Close end, bowling to Ravi Bapara, who gets right behind that and just pushes it defensively up to mid-on.
You almost feel that Essex, well, if they can replicate their first innings score, which is 216, that's probably going to be the sort of score that they've been thinking, well, that may be enough on this pitch, because that would give them a lead of almost bang on 300. So if they were to get the same score they got in the first innings.
Grunewald is in. This is driven out to deep extra cover, where Tom Banton is the fielder. Another single. They might feel they've got enough already.
Yeah, well, we could say, but be a shock declaration if it were to come. But yes, the lead
I'm
would
sure
be
they won't declare.
the lead would be close to 300, wouldn't it, if they were to replicate their first innings score? It's going to take a great innings from an innings under great pressure, and possibly a very big partnership between two of the Somerset top order to give themselves a chance in this game.
Here's Grunewald, and Tenduscarter leaves the delivery that's outside his off stump.
Just a thought in my mind, Stephen, if this is to be Somerset's season in the Championship, obviously it's not going to come easy, and there are going to be moments when they're put under great pressure, but if they were to find a way of coming through a situation like this, the boost it would give to the side going into that next game would be tremendous.
Here is Grunewald, and there's another wicket here, I think.
Cheers, caught behind.
Yeah, Tenduscarter waited. I didn't see the finger go up, but he's walking off anyway, which is the important outcome. He's gone for 134 for 5.
Interesting, I think he did put the finger up there, Nick Cook, eventually, and Tenduscarter went on the raising of the finger. Yeah, I mean, Somerset are chipping away with wickets here. Where are we now? It's 134 for 5, so the lead 219. And I suppose we're talking about Somerset, making significant inroads this evening. We've got another, just having a look now, 16 overs left. I mean, there might be this thought in the back of Somerset's mind, we're not quite on a roll, but we're sort of getting there. We're getting through this innings. If we can see the back of Essex for almost by the end of play or just into tomorrow morning, and leave ourselves somewhere around 250, 260, more unlikely things have happened. So Somerset are sort of gradually just getting some sort of toehold back into it. It's a long, slow process, but they're working very hard, I think, Stephen, and they're applying pressure. They've stopped the scoring, which is perhaps a little bit too free at some points earlier in the day. And I think Somerset are bowling to a good plan at the moment, and they're just getting some pressure on Essex, and it's paying off with wickets.
Tim Grunewald's third wicket of the innings, in fact.
Yeah, 3 for 24 in 7 overs and 4 balls.
And it was a great move to switch the end from which he was bowling.
Yeah, sometimes
he's taken 2 from that Hayes Close end now.
So I mean, Wheater, who got 21 in the first innings. Harmer, obviously a useful batsman. Siddle likewise, but there's just I think Ravi Bopara is a key man. If they were to be able to get Ravi Bopara out fairly quickly, there's a chance that Essex could be all but gone this evening in terms of this innings. I mean, because Somerset do have the bowlers, as indeed Hampshire showed last week. When they can get on a roll, then they could swiftly see the back of Essex, and indeed Somerset did that to a large extent, of course, in the Essex first innings.
Here comes Grunewald then to the new batsman, Adam Wheater, who immediately gets off the mark as he tucks this away down to Azhar Ali at long leg. Comfortable single. Yeah, Grunewald, who dismissed Alistair Cook immediately after being moved to that Hayes Close end, has now accounted for the captain as well.
What we have seen in recent innings from Essex is that when they start to slide, they can slide fairly quickly, and that's what Somerset will be hoping here.
As Grunewald is in, this is driven by Bopara. There's an almost complete stop by Tom Abel. That was really well timed off the bat of Bopara's bat, so Abel did pretty well.
He did, didn't he? And Bopara, you feel, is key here, because the Essex, obviously Bopara and Wheater, they've still got 2 front line batsmen, but then the others can potentially bat round Bopara. But I've an awful lot of respect for what Somerset have done this year. It's going to be very tough, but a target of 260 is a lot more palatable than trying to bat out 4 sessions with 400 as the nominal target, Stephen. So I think Somerset will just feel a little bit, particularly having got Cook out and followed up with that last wicket, just feel a little bit brighter about things. Still a difficult position.
Wheater, having got off the mark with a single, has hasn't kept the strike, because Bopara did have 1 ball at the end of the over, but now it's Wheater facing Leach, and coming forward to the first ball of a new over. 7 overs for 24, Jack Leach so far.
Yes, it's got 3 wickets in the first innings, but yet to get on the board this time round.
Round the wicket to Wheater. Slip and a silly point in as Wheater defends back to him.
I even asked Julius how many runs have come in the last sort of 10 overs or so, Julius. It seems to have, yeah, let me know, because it seems to have slowed down. We were seeing some stroke play earlier.
Leach, there's a sweep here, and it's going to go all the way down to the boundary at fine leg.
30, so it's that boundary will stop things moving.
So that takes Wheater to 5, the total to 139 for 5.
Yes, so Wheater, a pretty adept player against spin actually, very good on that sort of shot. We've not seen much of him recently because of his lengthy injury layoff, but they certainly missed him in his middle order role, particularly in the 50 over cricket, Stephen. It was if you list one of the key reasons why I think it's underperformed badly in the 50 over cricket, quite high on my list is the absence of this guy through injury.
224 is the Essex lead overall as Leach bowls again, and this is driven square to backward point where Bartlett is fielding, no run. The ball was changed after around 20 overs. After it went out of shape, Leach bowls again, and that's driven only as far as Hildreth at mid-wicket, so there won't be a run.
Tossed that up, it almost landed in the block hole, but we negotiated pretty well.
This next one from Leach is swept out to deep mid-wicket for 4. It's picked up very nicely by Adam Wheater.
And he's going to play his natural game, isn't he? Because we're noting that a relatively slow period of scoring, but Adam Wheater with a sweep and a sort of a pull there through the onside, sort of slog sweep if you like, in front of square, has just got the scoreboard moving, and that's the way he plays, naturally aggressive player. So Essex got the scoreboard moving again in that over. And Leach, I think that's the second pretty expensive over he's had. There was one very expensive over when Cook and Lawrence, I think, took him for about 11 or 12, but now he's got number 32 and 8.
Yeah, the lead now is on to 228.
I think if you offered Somerset chasing 265 to 270 now, they'd probably take it.
Here comes Tim Greneveld, and Bopara defends out to Tom Abel at cover. No run for that. Tom Abel clapping his hands in encouragement of his teammates.
Bangladesh have beaten Afghanistan by 62 runs. Afghanistan 200 all out. Bangladesh made 262 for 7. Shakib Al Hassan 10 overs, 5 for 29.
Here's Greneveld under grey skies, and this is pushed gently up to Azhar Ali at mid-off, this time by Bopara. Won't be a run for that either.
What it means is Bangladesh go to 7 points in the table, 1 behind England. If they were to win their last 2 games, it means that England have got to win 2 of their last 3 in order to qualify. So just increases the pressure on England ahead of tomorrow's game against Australia, which if they were to lose, given the fact that Sri Lanka is still in the picture, they'd have a few problems.
This from Greneveld is going to bring Bopara a single as he gets it between Gregory and Abel on the offside.
Have you enjoyed the World Cup, what you've seen of it, Stephen? Have you been an avid viewer?
Yeah, I wouldn't say exactly avid, but I've seen
You've
some
seen
of
a
it,
bit
certainly.
of it, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's obviously a pretty long tournament. It's curious actually, the Oval's had its bit, it's had a lot of games, now it's back to Championship cricket, whereas Lord's has now been the replacement ground for the Oval, and
yeah, and
good to see Taunton being used.
Yeah, Taunton returning to Championship cricket next week, as this is cut down to deep backward point for a single by Wheater.
Our colleague Kevin James was berating the fact that he's been on the road for weeks on end because the only home game Hampshire had was on the Isle of Wight, and that counted as an away game for him because of the impracticality of going back over the water every evening.
Yeah.
At least he only had a very brief stay here, though, so I'm sure that's helped him.
Greneveld in again, and that's driven up to mid-off. They think about a single. It's not there. That was played too firmly up to Azarali. Doesn't take long to get from Southampton to the Isle of Wight.
No, I suppose it's doing it every day.
Mm.
But yes, by all accounts, that was a successful venture. Somerset not playing on outgrounds, a bit like Essex. Nothing in the way of outgrounds at the moment, is there?
No.
I remember Bath from a few years ago.
This next one from Greneveld is driven up to mid-on. Won't be a run for that. And it's the end of Tim Greneveld's over. His 9th, 3 for 26 his figures, 145 for 5. Wheater has 10, Papara has 11, and the lead is now up to 230.
Way back. I remember doing a game at Western Supermare, but other than Bath, what other grounds have been sort of used from memory in the last sort of 15-20 years? Has it just been Bath from what you can well again for Glastonbury? Don't pick the wrong one. It's that time of year, isn't it? Or didn't have one last year, but they've got one this year.
They've played at Yeovil.
Don't plan your trip down to Somerset this coming weekend. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, Taunton very much, and that's where the investment has been made in the ground. Most recently with the new floodlights. As first ball of new Leach over is pushed back to him.
And of course, Essex also gradually lost their outgrounds from 3-2 to 1-0.
Here goes Leach, and forward comes Wheater.
In of course a season when, of course, from the perception of the members, everybody else seems to be playing more, but of course it's partly down to the World Cup and sides being forced to use outgrounds.
The first time I broadcast from a cricket match was at Southend.
All right, at the old South Church Park.
That's right, as Leach bowls, and that's driven up to Brooks at deep mid-on. It will bring him a single.
Many people would say the last time they broadcast from a cricket match was at Garran Park. never wanted to do one again, but because that was the less popular of the two Southend grounds.
Yeah. It was actually coming up to 35 years ago, that game I did. Essex against Glamorgan. This is driven out to deep extra cover, and Azarali is the fielder. They take another single, just exchanging singles, these two at the moment.
Truly, your esteemed colleague is in his 50th year covering Somerset.
Yes, no, 50th year. Well, it's. I'll come back to it.
He is 50.
Ball from Jack Leach, which is again going to be a single as it's pushed between the two run-saving fielders on the offside. That takes the total up to 148 for 5. Yeah, the last day of the match against Surrey at Taunton was the 50th anniversary of Anthony Gibson's first BBC cricket commitment. As Leach bowls, and that's pushed out to Abel at cover. He was scoring a game at Bristol.
Oh, right.
Between Gloucestershire and the West Indies, and it rained all day.
69, that was the year they lost to Ireland, famously bowled out for 25 when they'd had too much to drink, or something. That was the old story, wasn't it? So it's quite a famous West Indies tour, but he played no part in the alcohol, I'm sure, Anthony. But no, that's a great starting point, isn't it? That would have been the Gary Sobers era.
Yes.
And of course local radio commentary sort of started, I think I mentioned this last year. Certainly my perception of a sort of starting point was BBC Radio London Sunday afternoon, Ralph Dello and Norman de Mesquita.
Here is Greneveld starting a new over, and this is played out to deep square leg. There'll be at least one. Wheater wants a second, and we'll get it comfortably. Take the total up to 150.
I think it might have been 1972, but yeah, 3 till 7 on a Sunday afternoon. They'd pick Essex were counted as one of the London sides in those days. Essex, Kent, Surrey, and Middlesex. They'd they major on one game, and that was sort of like the prototype, the forerunner for, of course, the vast extent of coverage that we now have. But there's always a starting point for these things, but I think that might be the first example. I think BBC Radio London was one of the first local radio stations as well.
That day in 1984 that I did the Southend game, as Greneveld, he's nearly caught at second slip by Jamie Overton. Would have been a fantastic catch. One-handed, I think he may have got a finger or two to it.
Well, this is interesting, because Wheater is playing in a different style to Bopara. He's really giving it a go, almost as if it's deliberate. Wheater is scoring at 128 runs per 100 balls, and Bopara at 34s. So it just tells you a difference in approach here. He's really giving it a go, Wheater, as if there's a plan, and that would have been a brilliant catch if he got to it right-handed at second slip.
Yeah, couldn't quite hang on, and it went for 4 in consequence, taken Wheater on to 18. 154 for 5 as Greneveld is in again. More runs for Wheater here, just one more down to long leg. Jack Leach is on station there, so that takes it to 155 for 5. The lead now 240.
Well,
yeah, it wasn't a very good day for Essex. I do recall that Southend match.
Right.
It was the first day of a championship match. Glamorgan were captained by Mike Selvey, I recall.
Right.
And wickets fell fairly regularly, so it didn't work out quite as we hoped. As Greneveld bowls is going to be more runs here, could well be 4 of them. Down to third man. An expensive over from Greneveld. 2 boundaries in 3 deliveries. 159 for 5. Wheater quickly on to 23.
Yeah, amazing contrast here between Wheater and Bopara, although, as I say, Bopara just getting in on the runs there with a little deft shot. But this is an interesting little... It was led by Wheater, but I mean it's just an interesting little counter-attack from Essex. Maybe they fear getting bogged down and just losing steady wickets, and they want to just get a bit more in the way of runs between the two sides.
Greneveld in again, and that's a stylish flick from Bopara down to deep backward square. Leach in action again, and once more they'll just take a single, but it has been an expensive over this for Tim Greneveld.
Yes,
12 off it so far.
So that match in 1984 was your commentary?
It was reporting every half hour or so.
Right.
Reporting live.
Oh yes, we're lucky to get that as well, weren't we? Yes.
From the radio.
We did hourly reports. Yes.
It's for Essex Radio, which has probably got a different name now. This is driven up to mid-off. It was before BBC Essex came into existence.
BBC Essex started in the autumn of 1986.
End of the over, 160 for 5. Wheater has 19, Bopara has 17, and the lead is 245.
Wow, Essex made 141 on the 7th of July 1984. Chris Gladwin got 60 of them. Paul Pritchard and Brian Hardy, not batting where you'd expect. Pritchard opening and Brian Hardy batting down the order at 5. Were the only other 2 to get double figures, apart from extras. And then Alan Jones, it would have been, got 114 for Glamorgan. Yes, Lever, Foster, Phillip, Ackfield, Pringle. We were always talking about that attack this morning, about who might be a good attack for these conditions.
Here goes Jack Leach, starting a new over, and a nice looking drive from Ravi Bopara up to Jamie Overton at long off. They take a comfortable single.
Gladwin got 59 more in the second innings. David East batting at number 3, 81 in the second innings.
That's out of position.
There you go, yes.
Leach in, and Wheater is forward defensively.
Keith Fletcher made 0-1 in the match. Coming in the latter part of his career, Keith, by this point.
Yes, he was one of the former players out there yesterday.
Match drawn.
In goes Leach, and there's a drive out to Overton at long off again, so another single will eventuate. Ticking it over well for these two Essex batsmen, not so well from Somerset's point of view.
Mike Selby playing for Glamorgan got 4 wickets.
Yeah, he was captain.
Yeah.
This is pushed back to Leach.
Of course, he had that 1976 was his famous Test debut. I think it was at Old Trafford against the West Indies, where he got, I think, 4 quickly, and then the reality of Test cricket set in against that side.
Leach in. This is driven by Bopara, but it's a good stop by Abel at cover. No run. It's got a lot gloomier again. Floodlights are taking more of an effect. Leach trots in, and that's just pushed gently out into the covers. So at the end of another Jack Leach over. 0 for 36 his figures.
Yeah, they could have done without this partnership. Somerset. Session had gone pretty well, but Wheater's counter-attack has hurt them a little bit here. And the partnership up, has taken the lead to 247.
Change of bat, I fancy, for Ravi Bopara. We've still got how many overs now remaining? 11. Coming up to 6:30.
Surrey 141 for 3. Have had a good day. Lead Warwickshire by 105. Can they get their first win of the season? Mark Stoneman made 71. 141 for 3. Surrey second from bottom at the moment, and decent chance there of getting their first win of the season. They don't really want another defeat, that's for sure.
Going to see another burst of Jamie Overton from the Hayes close end, coming on in place of Tim Greneveld, who took the 2 wickets in his spell there. Overton into Wheater, who cuts and will get a single out to deep backward point. Tom Banton fields. You
mentioned the Glamorgan of 1984. The Glamorgan of 2019 are having a very impressive championship season. Joint second with Sussex going into this round of games in Division 2. Nick Selman is 73 not out. They're 152 for 1 at Bristol, just 161 behind Gloucestershire. And with Worcestershire not really firing, there's a potential opening in one of those 3 promotion spots for them if they can carry on like this. 3 going up. It's a good time to have a good season.
Absolutely. As Overton runs in again, that's a bit short and outside the off stump, but Parra not interested in playing it.
I have to be honest, second game of the season, Lancashire took a big first innings lead against Northampton. I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, Lancashire are up. They're too strong for the rest of the division, with an England opening bowler, 2 England opening batsmen. We think about Jennings and Hamid, and some promising youngsters coming through. Say Jimmy bowling half a season, and they look too strong, but I think they'll go up. And Sussex are looking good, and Glamorgan have got a great chance.
Here is Overton outside the off stump, and Bopara shaped to play at it, but just held his bat up inside the line in the end.
Yeah, he is just struggling a little bit, Bopara, in this innings. He's playing well within himself. I think he's the one that's playing for stumps, if you like, and it's Wheater who's provided the aggression at the other end. But the combination has been very good from an Essex point of view. Just at a stage where I thought there was a possible way back in for Somerset, these 2 have now added 29.
Yeah, Wheater's approach has been aggressive in both innings.
Yes. They really missed him.
Overton bowls, and Bopara has been caught at short mid-wicket. Would you believe it? That's a tame dismissal, really. Just clipped it firmly, straight to the man stationed, really to save runs. And the 6th Essex wicket has fallen. Bopara is the man dismissed for 18. And it's 163 for 6.
Well, Bopara, I wonder if he's thinking the ball stopped on him, a bit like the dismissal of was Davis earlier on when he drove to mid-off, because it was a curious dismissal, as you say, Stephen, almost inexplicable. Interesting looking at these Essex partnerships. 43 for the first wicket, then 29 for the second, then 32 for the third, then 21 for the 4th, just a 9 for the 5th, and now another partnership of 29. So we're getting a lot of sort of partnerships around about the 30 mark. So we're not quite getting away from Somerset, and Somerset will be pleased with that, because Bopara, although Wheater has been the aggressor in terms of scoring, Bopara is clearly the most accomplished batsman that they had yet to remove, and they've duly done so. So the lead at 248, and how many overs have we got left today? We've got 10 overs to go. If Somerset could come close to bowling Essex out this evening, it will give them a lift in the dressing room going into tomorrow. And they've just actually taken quite a major step towards doing that by getting rid of Bopara.
Yeah, George Bartlett, the man taking the catch, and he won't get many simpler than that.
No, just curious. I mean, it was off the face. Didn't appear to particularly stop in the pitch. It just looked to be a misjudgment. But it wasn't the happiest of innings for Bopara, that.
Actually, neither of the dismissals have been. I'll come back to that as Jamie Overton comes in to bowl to Harmer, who's the new batsman, coming in at number 8.
Showing it might have been Dominic Best coming as sub who took that, courtesy of Paul. So yes, indeed, it's coming up as our card just to confirm that.
He might be on for Bartlett, in fact.
So Best plays his part. He's been with Yorkshire. Curious, actually, Somerset loaning a player to a potential title rival this season. But of course, they've got Best back before any games against Yorkshire, which I suppose is they didn't want him playing against Somerset, did they?
I'm just looking around the field for Dom Bess, and for the life of me, I can't find him.
Well, he's maybe he's gone off again now, having taken the catch. But there's a bit of a change in the field, but.
Overton will continue. Anyway, an extra slip has been brought in for Harmer as Overton bowls, and that's short, and Harmer has nothing to do with it. Just lets it go through to Stephen Davies. I think he must have made a rapid disappearance.
Yes, maybe
Dom Bess,
to celebrate the catch.
if he took the catch.
But anyway, certainly coming up as court sub bowled Jamie Overton, and I think it should be a good day tomorrow. I think Somerset will be disappointed by their overall product in their first innings, but you look at the names on paper there, and 270, 280. If they can get a start, it's going to be tough, but it's the sort of thing that championship winning sides might just do. You never know.
Jack Leach back on, and this is driven up to Brooks at mid-on, who's not going to shy at the stumps, and that's wise, because Wheater would have been comfortably home.
Now I wonder if Wheater will carry on playing in the same way now that Bopara's gone, or whether the importance of Wheater's wicket now dictates a more conservative approach.
Leach then is going to bowl to Simon Harmer, who comes forward and defends. We'll bring Paul Newton back in at the end of this over.
Yes, we've still got 9 overs to go. It's been a long day.
As Leach bowls again, and that's pushed to backward point. Won't be a run. Leach just tosses the ball from hand to hand. In again, and that's defended out on the offside. Tom Abel is the fielder. Won't be a run for that. 164 for 6 Essex. The lead is 249. Leach bowls, and that's defended again by Harmer. Brooks is the fielder at mid-on.
We're talking about outgrounds, and between the overs I've got an email from Nick in Crete about the Essex outgrounds, which I'll wait till the end of the over for.
Leach bowls, Harmer defends. It's in the air briefly but safely as Hildreth fields. So commentary passing to you, Nick, and Paul will come in beside you.
Thanks very much, Steve. And yes, Nick in Crete says discussion of the outgrounds and the lack of them for Essex takes him back to the Essex mobile scoreboard. Dad used to take me in the late 50s, early 60s to as many games as possible during the school holidays, and I can remember Clacton, Brentwood, Ilford, Gidea Park, as well as South Church Park, Westcliff Park, and of course Castle Park. And we're heading off. So there may even have been others, but I don't remember. So great days indeed. Yes, the number has gradually reduced. Now, while I was reading that email out, the decision has been made that presumably the light is no longer fit. So it is, what, 2 or 3 days to Midsummer's Day, and I'm sort of slightly surprised by that. But the floodlights have just taken a little bit more effect in the last few minutes. The umpires are still out there, but the players have gone off. 164 for 6, the lead 249. We're just taking a reading at the moment. So the meter down on the stumps there, and it's just been picked up. They're having a little look at it. So clearly we haven't had conclusion of play for the day, because the umpire's still out there, and Paul is back. Paul Newton.
Yes, thank you very much, Nick. Yes, light rain has broken out again. It's only a sort of spit or two, but it's rather similar to when play was interrupted at 12:30 this morning. It has got pretty dark actually, and for someone of Jamie Overton's pace, there wouldn't be many who are quicker in the country than Jamie. I think no great surprise. Perhaps if it was one of the more medium pace quicker bowlers, they might have stayed out there.
It might have been the pace of the bowling, but certainly it is light that's got them off at the moment, because you see the light meter reading being taken.
Just like to reply to George Farrow's email. I was talking about my trip up to Scotland in just over a month's time. George, thank you for your emails today. You say, whilst I'm envious of my Scottish trip, or of your Scottish trip, Paul, I can counter it, albeit only in part. My daughter has just booked a round trip on the Dalesman. This is a steam train that runs on, I think it's a Tuesday, on various weeks. We are going from Skipton to Carlisle on the Dalesman, and that will take them over the famous Ribblesdale or Ribblehead Viaduct, as it's sometimes referred to, and over Shap. By the way, have you seen the magnificent bronze of Fred Truman at Skipton? I haven't actually, George, but thanks for mentioning that, and if I'm ever on in the Skipton area, I'll make a point of looking it up. But so for the moment, rain and bad light, I think it could be described as stop play.
No further play.
Yeah, I think it's sensible, because there's no hint in the skyline it's going to get a lot better, and we have only 9 overs remaining. I say only 9, but I think if there was a sort of brighter area on its way over, they'd have held the fire. But a sensible decision. They can make up half an hour tomorrow again. 164 for 6 means that overnight Essex lead by 249. I must say, I think Wheater has played a little gem of an innings here on 22.
He has. He's counter-attacked sensibly. Perhaps the feature of the day, though, still came very, very early on. Aaron Beard, 4 wickets and 15 deliveries. A career best, and certainly initially his best championship performance, but then more economical than his previous first-class best, also 4 wickets against Sri Lanka. And that perhaps a key phase of the game, because it absolutely decimated the Somerset innings, which was looking promising on 54 for 1, but it climbed to 74 for 6. Either side of that, wickets for Jamie Porter. He finished with 5 for 51, Beard 4 for 23. Tom Abel played nicely for 36, but other than that, only Bartlett 25 and Gregory 14 offered any real support. And Essex, going in a second time, made a usual pretty decent start, but wickets have fallen regularly, and we've talked about the regularity with which they've fallen in just the last few moments, with lots of stands around about 25 to 30. I mean, a wicket falling. Alistair Cook finished on 47 this time, before he was out to Groenveld after his 80 in the